What if I told you one of the most controversial films ever made could have been a Quentin Tarantino classic? Imagine natural-born killers, but with the razor-sharp dialogue, gripping tension, and brutal elegance of Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. This isn't just speculation, it's the untold story of Tarantino's original script, Oliver Stone's divisive adaptation, and the feud that followed. Stay with us as we uncover what could have been Tarantino's most daring work yet. Before Oliver Stone's chaotic, hyper-stylized, natural-born killers, there was Quentin Tarantino's raw, character-driven screenplay. Written in the early 1990s, Tarantino's version was a gritty tale of love and violence, deeply influenced by noir cinema and the punk rock energy of indie filmmaking. The story followed Mickey and Mallory Knox, two outlaws bounded by trauma and love, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. Unlike Stone's film, Tarantino's script wasn't about media sensationalism. Instead, it was a deep dive into the minds of two complex anti-heroes, with Tarantino's signature pop culture references and sharp dialogue taking center stage. Imagine the dynamic interplay of Vince and Jules from Pulp Fiction, but with a darker Bonnie and Clyde twist. Tarantino envisioned Mickey and Mallory as both victims and perpetrators of violence, shaped by a toxic environment but making conscientious choices to embrace chaos. Their love story wasn't romanticized but shown as a survival mechanism in a brutal world. The script didn't excuse their actions, but it allowed audiences to grapple with their humanity, something Stone's adaptation largely ignored in favor of caricatured madness. Another unique aspect of Tarantino's original vision was the inclusion of chapters, much like in Pulp Fiction and Kill Bill. Each segment of the story was meticulously structured, with deliberate pacing and thematic resonance. This would have added depth to Mickey and Mallory's journey, presenting their story as a series of escalating moral dilemmas rather than a chaotic spree. When Oliver Stone acquired the script, everything changed. Stone reimagined Natural-Born Killers as a satire on America's obsession with violence and media sensationalism. The result? A frenetic psychedelic film that some hail as genius and others dismiss as over-the-top. The changes were dramatic. Tarantino's version centered on Wayne Gale, a charismatic, driven journalist inspired by figures like Geraldo Rivera. Gale wasn't just a caricature, he was the anchor of the story, with Mickey and Mallory serving as the violent forces that shaped the narrative. Tarantino's script explored Gale's moral ambiguity and growing obsession with sensationalizing their crimes. This vision, however, was transformed by Stone into a broader commentary on media culture, sidelining Gale's depth in favor of making him a satirical pawn played by Robert Downey Jr., with an exaggerated, over-the-top flair. Stone's film also shifted the tone drastically. While Tarantino's script was grounded in realism, Stone injected surrealist visuals, rapid cuts, and a blend of media styles to create a sensory overload. It was chaotic, disorienting, and polarizing. Critics either praised it as a bold artistic statement or dismissed it as style over substance. The 16mm black and white footage Tarantino had envisioned for Wayne Gale's documentary sequences was replaced with psychedelic montages and cartoonish violence. Tarantino's reaction was swift and brutal. Disowning the film, he removed his name as the screenwriter, keeping only a story by credit. In interviews, he's called the final product a hot, sticky mess and admitted he couldn't sit through the whole movie. For Tarantino, Stone's version stripped away the humanity and nuance he had poured into his characters. This transformation also created tension between Tarantino and the cast. Juliette Lewis, who played Mallory, reportedly struggled with the changes as her performance leaned more into the surrealist tone Stone demanded. The film became less about the Knoxes as individuals and more about their symbolic role in Stone's critique of the media. Let's imagine for a moment what Natural-Born Killers could have been under Tarantino's direction. First, forget the psychedelic editing. Instead, picture long, tension-filled dialogues punctuated by bursts of shocking violence. Think of Mr. Blonde's infamous scene in Reservoir Dogs. Wayne Gale would have remained the driving force of the story. Tarantino's script painted him as a morally ambiguous journalist who gets entangled in the chaos he seeks to document. His growing obsession with fame and ratings mirrors the dark themes of exploitation and complicity. Gale wasn't just a vessel for satire. He was a deeply flawed character whose arc mirrored the very system he sought to manipulate. Meanwhile, Mickey and Mallory would have been supporting characters, still violent and compelling, but their narrative arcs would have served Gale's descent into the moral gray zone of media sensationalism. Tarantino's script explored how Gale's obsession with their story led to his own unraveling, turning him into a tragic anti-hero. This version of Natural Born Killers might have felt closer to Network than to Stone's psychedelic fever dream, a biting critique of media culture grounded in raw, character-driven storytelling. It would have relied on dialogue, tension, and moral ambiguity rather than visual overload. Tarantino's use of music would also have played a key role. Imagine a carefully curated soundtrack blending 70s rock, punk, and moody instrumentals, perfectly synchronized with the story's emotional beats. This would have created a stark contrast with Stone's eclectic, chaotic score. Tarantino's disdain for the final film is well documented. In one interview, he described a scene so bad he had to leave the theater, saying, "That's not my movie." And he wasn't alone in his criticism. While some praised Stone's film for its bold commentary, others called it self-indulgent and unfocused. But even if Natural Born Killers wasn't the film Tarantino envisioned, it sparked conversations about the creative process in Hollywood, about what happens when different visions collide. Its polarizing nature extended beyond its plot to the actors and creative decisions. Juliette Lewis and Woody Harrelson, who played Mallory and Mickey Knox, were noted for their intense performances. However, Lewis reportedly found it challenging to align with Oliver Stone's surrealist and exaggerated tone. Harrelson's depiction of Mickey as a charismatic yet violent figure fueled debates on whether the film glorified or critiqued such personas. After the film's release, reports of crimes allegedly inspired by the movie stirred public outrage. Notable incidents, including the Columbine tragedy and other violent acts, were linked to the film, raising questions about its impact on impressionable viewers. Critics argued the film could glorify criminal behavior, while supporters defended its satirical intent. Best-selling author John Grisham, whose friend was a victim in a murder supposedly influenced by the film, criticized director Oliver Stone and the production team. The controversy sparked debates on the ethical responsibilities of filmmakers when portraying violence. For Tarantino, it was a lesson in the risks of selling a script without directorial control. For audiences, it was a glimpse into what happens when two filmmaking giants clash. Despite his criticism, Tarantino's original script has gained a cult following. Fans have even staged table readings of his version, speculating about the masterpiece that could have been. And while Stone's film remains polarizing, it undeniably cemented its place in cinematic history. So what do you think? Would Tarantino's Natural Born Killers have been his next masterpiece? Or is Oliver Stone's version a chaotic classic in its own right? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe to Tinseltown Unscripted for more content like this.